It wasn't the hero we expected, but it's the hero we needed to beat the Blue Jackets. The Baby Penguins got throttled, and we will hear from Coach McDonald. Alex Nedeljkovic stood on his head last night, and he's trying to replace Tristan Jarry as the Penguin starter as Sidney Crosby continues to dominate and make more history. Alex Ovechkin is not the only one chasing Wayne Gretzky right now. Crosby is approaching one of Wayne Gretzky's most difficult records to catch. Sidney Crosby is doing things that no one has ever done in NHL history, and we'll talk about that later in the video. But first, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Penguins Digest, providing the latest Pittsburgh Penguins news, rumors, content, and analysis here on the channel. We'll continue to provide daily updates on your Pittsburgh Penguins, and a big win happened last night. So let's celebrate another Penguin. The Pittsburgh Penguins defeated the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that they have had a lot of success against, but this year they were in jeopardy of losing the season series to the Blue Jackets for just the second time ever, but they avoided that. They beat the Blue Jackets 6-3, and they got efforts from a ton of players last night. It was a full team win for the Pittsburgh Penguins. As we take a look at the headlines from last night's game, Penguins pile on as Blue Jackets fall from grace. And the Blue Jackets were in a position to possibly be a playoff team this year. They were having one of their best years in a long time. But the Penguins, adding to that losing streak for Columbus, is kind of eliminating any hope that they had at making a playoff push this year. There are a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference and a lot of teams fighting for that wild card spot that luckily the Penguins no longer have to stress out about. We don't care if we win games, but it is fun to watch games like we just watched last night as the Penguins are getting hot at the worst possible time. Here we are content with losing for once because we're trying to get a better draft pick, and the Penguins are going out there and dominating half the teams that they play. So while the Penguins continue to win, the Blue Jackets continue to lose. They wish they could switch places, the Blue Jackets, with us at this point in time because the Penguins are playing their best hockey of the entire season, but they met for a Metropolitan Division matchup here, and the Penguins desperately needed a win against the Metro opponent, so it's nice to get that win, handing the loss to Columbus 6-3, and they have lost 6 straight games. So tough break for the Columbus Blue Jackets, but leading the way for the Penguins once again, Captain Sidney Crosby. This guy just puts the team on his back when he has to. Not that he had to last night because the team did play well enough to win that game, but Crosby has been doing it all year long. He is now 4 points away from Wayne Gretzky's record, averaging a point per game for 20 seasons. And not just 20 seasons, 20 consecutive seasons. Nobody ever thought that was possible. That record will never be touched if Sid breaks that record. And that's what people said about Gretzky, so I'll hold my breath just a little bit longer. There might be some other Sidney Crosby that comes along in 25 years and tries to break Sidney Crosby's record, but for now, he is the most consistent hockey player in hockey history after he breaks Wayne Gretzky's record. So let's talk about Sid, because Sid stayed hot. He got a much-needed goal for the Penguins, and it was a beauty, I'll tell you, tipping that thing in and then hurdling the goalie to stay on his feet. I mean, Crosby just, it's a magician act. It's literally a magic act watching this guy play hockey. He just runs around the ice and just makes magic happen. That's what he does. He's one of the best, and just watching him is a privilege. We get to see OV and Crosby. I mean, how lucky are we in this era of hockey? We'll have plenty more on that if Ovechkin actually does break Wayne Gretzky's record. Let's look at Sid's ridiculous numbers on the season because he just continues to pad them at this point. His stats are just out of this world for a 37-year-old. I mean, this dude's been doing it since he was 18 years old, and even before that, setting records. Unbelievable. 25 goals, 51 assists, and he has more 50 assist seasons than anybody in modern era of hockey, too. So 76 points. Somehow he has a -20 rating, which is hard to believe because he's such a 200-foot player, but the Penguins have just struggled this year. His expected plus-minus is only -1, so that tells you a little bit more about that. But Sidney Crosby, just unbelievable. We just look at the stats and admire it at this point in time. We just have to feel lucky that we got to see this guy play all these years and watch his career unfold, because it really is once-in-a-lifetime generational type talent that's on the ice every day for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But let's dive a little bit more into this loss for Columbus, because for Columbus, the game went the exact opposite way as they hoped and their defense was very subpar. The Penguins had 34 shots on goal. And here's why I don't care about shots on goal. It is the quality of your shots on goal. It is the high danger chances that you're getting in these high percentage looks, these better opportunities that the Penguins were able to create yesterday. That passing play where Rickard Rakell scored, you saw Crosby work his magic there as well. Another multi-point game for Sid. Passed it over to Rusty. Rusty hesitated for just a bit, put it past the defenseman, and there's Rickard Rakell on the doorstep to knock it through. Tic-tac-toe passing from a line that has some of the best chemistry I've seen in the National Hockey League this season. And I've watched more Penguins games than any other team, so that's probably why I've seen that more. But hey, just like you guys, we just have to admire this. And seeing Rickard Rakell score another goal for the Penguins, approaching 35, maybe even 40, if he could somehow get there this season, he's having a career year, and it's because he's on a line with Sid. We saw Gensel do it. We saw a lot of great players come through, but we've also seen a lot of subpar players play on a line with Sidney Crosby and look like superstars. And I'm not saying Rickard Rakell is, mediocre or anything, but he isn't a superstar, and Sidney Crosby is making him look like a superstar. So that just tells you everything you need to know about Sidney Crosby, making everyone around you better, and that's the most important part about being a leader, about being a captain, and even just being a center in general. You need to make the players around you better. You need to elevate the game of your wingers in order to be a productive line, and that's what Sidney Crosby has always done. No matter who's on his wings, he is Sidney Crosby, and we know we're going to get production out of him every single night. The consistency is there, and you look at the offense also being subpar for the Blue Jackets. They recorded 47 shots on goal, but it didn't reflect the quality of those chances. It goes back to quality. And Blue Jackets head coach Dean Evason actually called his team out for that. He said, we were cheating to try to create offense, and we don't have to. We've been creating offense. They just haven't gone in the net. Tonight, we forced the issue. We cheated, and that is why you lose, because you can't cheat hockey. You got to work hard. You got to put in the effort, and you got to really generate those opportunities. You got to manufacture those opportunities. But they didn't do that. They just started throwing pucks on net, and Ned had the answer for almost everything. Now, there were still quite a bit of really good saves by Nedeljkovic last night that bailed out the team. But for the most part, let's just appreciate that we scored 6 goals, because Crosby gets his 25th goal of the season. Penguins win 6-3. The important part is scoring more than 3 goals. If we would have scored 3 goals, we would have been going to overtime. So it goes back to that same magic number I pointed out yesterday. The Penguins are a very good team when they score at least 3 goals. They put up 6, and it's the different players that contributed as well. Rickard Rakell, Brian Rust, Evgeni Malkin, Noel Acciari, Boko Imama scored for the Penguins, and then Nedeljkovic with 44 saves in his first start since March 7th. So it's been, 2 weeks for Alex Nedeljkovic, and Tristan Jarry has been the hot hand, so we've been riding him. You throw Ned back in there, kind of like we projected here on this channel, and he did a great job. And so Alex Nedeljkovic might have just took his starting job back from Tristan Jarry, and I'm fine with that at the end of the day. Takeaways from the game. Blue Jackets, 6th straight loss, remains 3 points behind Montreal for the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 8 of 9 overall. Not great. The Penguins have won their 5th game in 6, and they have a 4-game winning streak that got snapped by the Islanders, and they are back in the win column against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The key moment, and that'll get me to my next chapter here today, Boko Imama gave Pittsburgh a 4-2 lead with a one-timer shortly after a face-off win in the offensive zone. And that was about halfway through the second period, but Boko Imama is breaking through. He is breaking out for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We didn't expect to see him score a goal because he had one career NHL goal coming to Pittsburgh. This was his first Penguins goal. Boko Imama finds the score sheet, and he found it in a perfect situation. He gave the Penguins the win. He had the game-winning goal in that game for the Pens, and he didn't know it at the time, but it was a huge goal. It was actually a great shot by Boko. I didn't know he had it in him, but here he is going top cheese, and wow, on Elvis Merzlikins, who isn't a bad goaltender. So give a lot of credit to Boko Imama finding the first star of the game. That is what he was honored with last night after his effort. He has been doing a lot of different things for this Penguins team. He's been contributing in a lot of ways, but not on the score sheet. So seeing Boko get that goal last night and seeing him light up after he scored and helping the team win, that is big for him because he does want to be part of this team moving forward. He's talked about how much he loves playing for the Penguins. He talks about loving being a Penguin. Boko Imama might be part of the future here in Pittsburgh. That's just something we have to accept at this point. He's 28 years old. He's in the midst of his career. He's due a new contract. I would give him I wouldn't give him a ton of money, but I will say I would like to have Boko on our fourth line. I think he's a perfect fourth line player. He's not going to play a ton of minutes, but when he's out there, he's going to scrap. He's going to throw hands. He's going to hit everybody. He's going to do what he has to do. And Boko, you need a little bit of physicality. That's something this team has lacked for a long time. He is that guy. He's the guy that we need. He's that Tanner Glass, that Brandon Tanev, that physical presence that we haven't had. I would have rather kept Brandon Tanev long ago, but he wasn't a great fit here in Pittsburgh. Tanner Glass was a little bit better of a comp, I think, but Boko Imama, he deserves to be here. He's proved his way. He's earning the trust of Mike Sullivan. He's getting a few minutes a game, and he's going out there and doing his role. It's not about, trying to be someone you're not. Boko Imama knows what he is. We've shown his quotes on this channel before, and the type of player he knows he has to be to make it in the NHL. And he is that player. And then when he contributes on the scoreboard, that's a bonus. That's a total bonus. You're not even expecting that from Boko. So a little bit of an unsung hero for the Pittsburgh Penguins was Boko Imama last night, and I am not complaining because Boko is definitely the man. As we look at the actual score sheet, the box score from last night's game, we see all the different goal scorers, all the different guys that are getting points. I mean, Noel Acciari got a goal. Crosby had 2 points. Duar had an assist. Kevin Hayes had an assist. Danton Heinen had an assist. Boko had a goal. Blake Lizotte had an assist. Malkin had a goal. Rickard Rakell a goal and assist. Rust a goal and assist. Phil Tomasino an assist. I mean, guys, every player, every forward on this team except Juno Koppanen had a point in that game. All of our forwards had a point in that game except Juno Koppanen, who scored his first NHL goal a couple of nights ago. So the Penguins are getting contributions from literally everybody. What else could you ask for? I mean, this is beautiful to look at and see. Hey, every single player in the box score did something. Everybody contributed to the score sheet. I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. It's such a diverse scoreboard and such a diverse scoring summary to see all these different names and to know that everybody's pitching in. It's a team effort, and that's when you win games, is when everybody is helping everybody and everybody's pitching in, and that's what happened. Evgeni Malkin got that first goal. It was more of a lucky bounce than anything else. Noel Acciari had a lucky bounce to have that one come to him, and he was able to pot that in the back of the net. Rakell was just great passing by Crosby and Russ. That chemistry, showing that on display. Imama with a snipe. And then you see Sidney Crosby getting that tip-in goal, the beautiful goal, jumping over the goalie. And then Brian Russ on the empty netter. He wasn't even in the offensive zone hardly, and he just forked that thing. So the Penguins doing what they got to do to win games, just grinding out wins. Mike Sullivan talked about it and how he wants to see this team, give that type of effort and grind out games like this. They weren't able to play a full 3 periods in the last game, and that's why they didn't win. Last night they played 3 periods, and that's why they won the game. So that's the important part, and the takeaway for me is that they actually finished the job this time. They actually got through the full game. They didn't collapse like they did against the Islanders. They showed improvement from one game to another, and that's really all you can ask for seeing in this team, is just continued improvement as we go through the rest of the season, building for next year. The last thing we're going to talk about today, and this segment will not take long because Wilkes-Barre Scranton had a wake-up call last night. Fall from grace is how they described the Columbus Blue Jackets. Well, that's what just happened to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Baby Penguins last night. They got absolutely throttled, and that is how every single headline described the beating that they took last night by the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Not a great game for the Baby Pens at all, and we hate to see it, but this is the reality of the situation. Sometimes you're just going to get blown out, and you got to bounce back, and that's what head coach Kirk McDonald had to say about the game last night when he was asked, hey, you guys didn't look like yourselves out there last night. What's going on? Well, he said, I think we just got to respond tomorrow. We'll come back tomorrow and get to work. And why does he say that? It's because the Baby Penguins are in the midst of a stretch where they play games every single day for 3 days. So you lose the first game, you got to bounce back the next day. You have a game the next day and the day after that. If you could take 2 out of 3, you're sitting pretty. You don't have to win all 3 games in a triple header, back to back to back. That's not easy to do in hockey, to not have an off day. They came off that stretch where they weren't playing for 5 days, and then they have to play 3 consecutive games. I think that's terrible how the schedule's set up like that for the AHL sometimes, but they're facing this adversity. That's something that happens in sports. Throughout the season, you have these different lulls in your schedule. Maybe you'll have a little bit of a layoff, and then you'll have 3 games in a row. It happens. This is the hardest part of their schedule, knowing that we're getting close to the end of the season. So they have some games coming up. You see the schedule. They play the Hershey Bears tonight. That's going to be must-see TV. And then, of course, Bridgeport tomorrow. So the Baby Penguins will be busy trying to bounce back from their loss, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are looking to stay hot after a big night for Boko Imama, Sidney Crosby, Alex Nedeljkovic, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode.